All right, I'm live. Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'm going to be live streaming with a question from a subscriber from YouTube. Dan wants to know, I'm currently building a website on Webflow and would like to have a button that, when clicked, plays a random video from a CMS collection. I don't know why, but I couldn't add the video field that contains all the video links from Vimeo. Do you know if it's possible? Well, it's a little bit tricky, but Dan, I will show you what I came up with. I'm assuming that you're loading videos from Vimeo. That can be pretty particular in this case. You could also use a custom HTML embed player and load the video from some sort of other hosting, but for this video, we're going to assume that you're using Vimeo. So the way you might go about this with a collection list, so I've got my Webflow project here, and we have 4 Vimeo videos in this collection. I'm going to show you, I have video 1 here, and here's the link to Vimeo, and then I also just added the ID by itself. We could use some JavaScript sort of string manipulation to just grab the ID off the end of the URL, but for now I'm going to add them both because it'll make our life easier and write some less code. So I'll save that even though I really didn't change anything, and you'll see we've got 3 other videos that are doing pretty much the exact same thing. So the way I would go about this starting, this is going to be the wrong way, and I'll show you why, is we'll just drag a collection list onto our page. We'll have it sourced from Vimeo videos, and then we'll grab the Webflow video element, which, where's that one? Right here. Chuck it in there, and we're going to say get our video from Vimeo videos. So we should wait for that to load up, hopefully. Let's check the styles. So if we come to our collection item, collection list, collection wrapper. So right now our layer is justifying to center. Let's see. We can just set this width to 100%, and then we'll start seeing our videos. So I do want these to show up in the middle, and right now we're showing all the videos, but I just want to show one of them, right? So something we can do is on our collection list or collection list wrapper, we can say that we want to limit the number of items. Let me zoom. Oh, that's not zoom. Let me zoom. Right here, we want to show 1 starting at 1. And once we click off, then we can only see we have 1 video here. So this is looking great so far. If you watch Nelson's video he just streamed earlier today, you would think that maybe you could say, okay, sort order, let's make it a random order and save that. And we get a random one here, but when we come and publish, and we check the site out now, we get a random one on load, but if I refresh, we're going to get the same one. So you'll need some shuffle code to do that. Again, that's not the point of this tutorial. We're going to make a little button that shuffles this for us. Let's go into the Chrome DevTools inspector though, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, or a lot bit. And now normally what I would do is I would try to access the video element and change out the source attribute, or the SRC. So let's use our little selector here and grab the video. And so here we can see we've got our wrapper, video, scrolling up. I'm just trying to find, there's going to be an iframe element here. I'm so zoomed in, it's having a little bit of trouble finding it. But this is how things go, and I just keep expanding things. Here's our video. We can see it's got this source equals blob sort of thing going on. And this is the video preview. Let me see what happens when I play it. Okay, so the video is playing. It's looking a little bit different from, here we go. Okay, so we have this iframe here. And what this iframe is, it's an embedded, essentially, website inside of our website. So we would think, okay, I want to access this source. I can see that this source here is looking at player.vimeo/video. It looks like there's an ID here for the video. This was the, the ID that we had in the CMS. There's some other stuff going on in here. I'm not sure if we can just change this. Let's try it. So I've got another Vimeo video here. Let's grab this ID and come, and we'll just delete this and paste that. And that actually worked. So something we could do is we can select our iframe. Oh, you notice we actually have another iframe up here. So selecting the source and changing this worked, and that's expected. That's good. But we need to use JavaScript to be able to select that, right? So if I come up here, we can see that there's another iframe, and this is class embedly embed. And I know that embedly is kind of like it's a company that helps you with embeds on your website, right? But we can see that the source attribute here is loading from a CDN, some widgets, this sort of thing. So let's go ahead and select this and right click and store as a global variable. And if I expand this, we can see it's stored it as temp1. So now I'm trying to select the source here, but you're going to see I'm going to have trouble doing that. So I can say const embed equals document dot query selector, and we'll select our class of embedly embed. Oops, not that. So we want to select this class embedly embed. It's already been declared, so let me rename that. Something's stored on my machine here. We'll just call it EM. And now if I type out EM, we can see, okay, I've got this iframe. Now how do I select things within an iframe? This can be very difficult, and if your iframe is hosted on a different domain, you can't select anything. So normally when this does work, you can say something like EM or our iframe variable dot content document, and then we want to get the document, but you can see we're already returning null. So I can't access the content document, which is this document that I see right here in the HTML. Let me zoom in. Is it going to work? Not going to work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Anyway, so what I'm getting at really here is that I have no way of changing this source attribute with JavaScript that I know of. So we can do something else though. And the way we're going to do it is by not using the Webflow default embeds. We're going to make our own. So let's close this down, come back into Webflow, and we're still good to have this collection list. But what we're going to do now is we're going to come to Vimeo. And if we click the share button right here, then it's going to open up a modal. And the modal is going to go away. But if we click the share button without being zoomed in, we can see there's some embed code right here. And it's an iframe. Look at that. Let's go ahead and copy that and come back to Webflow. And I'm going to just delete this video element right here. And now what I'm going to do is I am just going to drop an embed, but outside of the collection list. So I'm going to drop it right here, and I'll put that iframe code in and save. And we can see we're getting this video from Vimeo up here. Okay, good. Moving right along. I'm going to go ahead and change the layout div to be vertical so that the collection list shows up down here. Now, we also see that on our embed code, we've got this kind of thing down here that I don't want. So I'll just go ahead and delete all of that. Actually all of this, just up to the closing iframe right here. And you can see they've specified a width and a height. We're going to set the styles ourselves. So we'll delete that, save and close. But now you can see it's all tiny. It doesn't know anything what to do. So let's play with our styling. We'll call this our embed. And we want this to be 100% width. We don't need it to be 100% height, but we do need it to be the aspect ratio of the video. And these videos are going to be 16:9. So I'll use the padding top trick and set this to 56.25%. Now that's our embed div, but we have another div inside of that embed div. So let's give this iframe a class equal to video controller. And we'll save that. And then I'll just drag a div onto the page. I'm going to call this styles keeper. And we'll put one more div inside of that. And I'll call this video controller. Now what we can do is we can style this video controller, and we should expect it to style the iframe element that's in there. So I want that to be position absolute, and I want it to be 100% width and 100% height. And I want to set this absolute to full down here. So I'm going to click that, come back, and we can see now we've got a full page embed here. So that's good. That's doing what we want it to do. But we also need to set this embed to relative because its child is absolute. And now we can see it's filling up that blue box that we wanted to fill up. Okay, so why are we going through all this? Let's go ahead and publish this. And I'll come back here, and we see now if we're inspecting in the console, our iframe there. And this is a lot easier. We can just change the source directly in the iframe. We don't have to access this document. So I could come up with another. Let's grab one of our IDs. And we don't need this query parameter. So I'm just going to delete all of that and paste. And now we can see we can load videos by accessing this iframe with the class of video controller. So now we're getting somewhere with what we can target with JavaScript. The other thing though is we need to be able to list all these IDs that we want to use. The way we can do that really easily is in our collection list. Rather than putting a video element in here, we can just put that ID that we got. So I'm going to drive some text in there. I'm going to get the text, and let me bring this up. I want to get the text from the Vimeo ID field. So now you can see we have our ID there. And remember, we limited this to 1. So let's set this back to all of the items, or I think 100 is the max that we can show. So we're not going to limit our items. And so now we've got our 4 IDs there, and we're going to use JavaScript to grab these IDs and inject them on the press of a button. So let's make sure we can grab them. Right now it's called text block. I'll just call this, I'll give it a class of Vimeo text ID. And then this whole collection list wrapper, we're just going to hide it so that it doesn't show up on our page. And so now you can see they're hidden, but they'll still exist on our document so that we can access them. The last thing we need is an actual button. So let's go ahead and throw that on there. Call this button. Give it an ID of random button. And I'm not going to take much time to style it. Oops. Oh, that didn't work. And that's because that's position absolute, so it's showing up over the button, but I'll just change, I'm not even going to style the button at all. Let me change the text here. I am not typing where I want to type. Let's go ahead and bring our button outside of this layout. So layout right now is kind of taking over everything with the embed. So I'll just move it outside of layout, and we can see it's up here. And now I should be able to edit it a little bit easier. Still struggling. Let me bring it even further out. Let me refresh Designer. Hey Eli, thanks for dropping in. Appreciate you stopping by. So I'm selecting the body, but I want to be able to select this button. Let's move it outside of the section, down here. Okay. Random, get random video. And let me see what the layout is doing, because that's bugging. I think I have it like a min height of 100 VH. Let's set it to, what if I do 50? 60? 80? Sure. And then outside the layout, we'll drop our button, but below, and we'll just center it. I think most of this video is just going to be me styling a button, or failing to style a button. Still not in the center. Centering a div, the hardest thing. I'll put it in another div. So this div will be 100%. Hey, Omkar and Jorg, how you doing? Okay, we've got a button that's in the center of our page. And let's see, we gave it the ID. We're gonna get into the code here pretty quickly. It's got the random button. We have all of our, gotta rename it. Can't be having div block on our page. We have all of our IDs, so now we're going to go ahead and write the code that grabs the ID and changes this source attribute on this video component. Let me publish. Oh, before I publish, I've already preloaded the code sandbox file, so that's right here. I'm just going to be coding in code sandbox today because it's a simple little script. Okay, now we publish. And if I refresh, okay, here's everything on our page. What's my zoom at? So we know we want to select our random video button. So let's come into code sandbox here. And the first thing we're going to say is const button equals document.query selector. And we had the ID of random button, I believe. And then we're going to say const Vimeo IDs equals document.query selector all. And we're going to target that class, so a period. What was the class? Let's just come over here so we don't screw it up. Vimeo text ID. So we want all of these, and that's going to get us a node list of the items. We are going to want to access the text content, but we don't need to do that yet. Let's add an event listener for the button, and we want to listen for the click event, and then we're going to run a function. So this is just an empty function syntax, and let's just console log clicked for now. Save, come back, refresh, get our sizing right. Oh, it's not going to register a click because I have something jacked up here. What did I mess up? Oh, you know what it is. Okay. So Vimeo controller is position absolute, and it's within styles keeper here, which is position static. I want it to be respective to styles keeper, so I'm going to set this to relative. Now we can actually select things on our page because video controller isn't covering it. The reason I keep the styles keeper thing here is just so that, let's say, you know, Webflow doesn't know, the designer doesn't know that I put the video controller on our embed class right here, right? So if I style this class but don't keep it on the page, so let's say I delete it, and now I go to clean up classes, it's going to try to delete this class when I hit cleanup video controller, and we don't want that. We want that to persist. So let's just go ahead and drag this div block back here and call it video controller. And so it's styles keeper. I'm going to hide this, and it's set to relative, so now I can actually press the button on our page. Okay. Come back here and refresh. Now I can click this button, and we know that it's clicked. Great. Let's continue writing our code. I'm going to get rid of the sidebar here and zoom in even more. So we've got our button. We've got all of our text. Now what we want to do is on click, we want to get a random number. So we'll say const random int equals math.random. This returns a number between 0 and 1 with decimals. And we'll say Vimeo IDs.length. And then we're going to call math.floor on this, so round it down. And we'll get our random int. So let's console log random int. Save. Make sure we're getting numbers. So 1, 0, 3, 0, 2. Yep, we've got 4, so we shouldn't expect to have anything more than 4 or less than 0 here. So we're going to use this random int to access one of the IDs. We don't need this. We don't need this. So const Vimeo src equals document.query selector. And we want to select that class of, what was it called? Vimeo or video controller. And let's actually move this up because we only need to select it once at the beginning of our code. We don't need to select it every time the button is clicked. And we will say, okay, so we want to say something like, so we want to set the source, but we need to make sure that we set it to a proper variable. So let's get the source right now. So current source equals Vimeo source dot source. And we can actually wrap this in we should be able to wrap this in a URL. So let's say new URL, role, not role, URL. Hey Maria, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you saying hi. Console log, and let's see what current source is. All right, refresh, click the button. Uh-oh, new constructor URL, invalid URL. You know what, that's okay. Let's do some string manipulation here. Let's actually see what it was giving us. I wouldn't expect that. We want to get random video, undefined. Am I selecting the wrong source? Oh, it's grabbing the first video controller div. So this is kind of unfortunate. What we can do is, I'll just work around this. Trying to think of the right way that I want to show you how to do this. We'll do a kind of a hacky way right now. So we want to say video source query selector all, and we're just going to get not the 0 with 1 because that's going to be our fake one, but we'll get the one at the index of 1. And now we should be able to see Vimeo source.source. Click the button. Okay, now we've got a URL, and this is working too. And what we want to do is we want to change this path name, right? So we know it's going to be /video/the ID here. So let's go ahead and start working on that. And so what we can do is actually we're going to change the source. So our code is going to be something like Vimeo source.source equals, and we'll say current source dot, what do we want? Host name, host. The href is going to be the whole thing. So we'll say, let's select the origin here. So dot origin, and then we want to add, or what we can do is we can use template literal string syntax, and to do that we'll just wrap this in curly braces and throw a $sign there. So now the variable gets injected. And does that end in a slash or not? It does not. So we'll say /video/ and then inject the source that we want. /video/ $sign curly braces. And now we're going to say Vimeo IDs of our random int. And that should be all that we need to do. Let's test it out. Oops, embedded code for this video is not valid. Bummer. Okay, so it's injecting a div element because we need to grab the text, I'm assuming. Let's see. Const new src equals this. Save. Back to our project. So this is a string that we want, although it's concatenating the HTML div element here. Let's fix that. So yep, I already said this. This is going to get us the HTML div element. I had mentioned that, but we need to get our text content, right? So we'll say .text content. Is it? I think it's just, I always forget if it's that or not. If it's a property or a method. Okay, this is what we want to get, and that's what we want to set our video source equal to. So equals new source, and save, go back, refresh. All right, it's working. And we'll get another new video, another random video. So this should hopefully answer the question. I like doing this live stuff because it shows the process of how I'm debugging, all the errors that I run into for even writing just, what's this, without the console logs, without the comments, like 15 lines of code, right? So it just kind of shows you how to get from point A to point B. Anyways, hope this helps. And who was it that asked this question? Dan? Dan, if you got any questions, pop them in the comments.